Hey strong people, Beck here from StartingStrongman.com. I'm going to discuss the events for the Arnold Classic of 2019 as brought to us by Brian Shaw in his YouTube video, which I will link below if you haven't seen it already. I just got to note, I really liked it a lot more when the athletes didn't want to release these themselves, so they'd release it to a training partner that for meet, and then I'd release it. That was better, but really like that Brian's making those videos and getting some hype going for the events. It would make more sense like if it was sent out to the athletes and then there was like a formal press release that went out very soon after that, because that's a great piece of information to hype the event. So I guess I'll do it if the Arnold Classic isn't going to have it up on their events. So I already went over who qualified in a previous video, but just to sum and how the qualification works, go back on my channel, and if you want to watch that, just to sum it up, we got Brian Shaw, Hafthor Bjornsson, Ronald Hanla, Mateusz Kielzikowski, Jerry Pritchett, Matthias Belsack, Mikhail Shivakov, JF Karan, Martins Lisis, and Alexei Novikov, who won the Arnold Amateur. If you want to know how they all qualified, you can go back in my channel and watch how they qualified for the 2019 Arnold to explain the process. So, also already covered the first event, the Rogue Elephant Bar Deadlift. The big, we've seen that in the past. They're putting it first, so they really want, they want this record broken. They want the 500 kilo broken. Did a 10-minute video just on that event because there's $50,000 for that one event. I think that's great that there's more money in the sport, but I don't think one event should have more precedent than any other event, and it's kind of just turning Strongman into the world's best deadlifter in a way on how there's so much attention given to the event. Elephant bar is cool. Personally, I like the Hummer tires more. They're more visually appealing. It's different. The problem with the Elephant bar, other than it's just such a cool piece of equipment and looks, is that it's so close to a standard bar that even if someone does break the 500 kilo or 501, it's just going to cause a cavalcade of shitstorm of, is this one actually easier, the bar bends more, etc. It's not a real deadlift, da-da-da. Blah, 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 blah. One thing to note is you can't use figure 8 straps at the Arnold, at least in previous years, and that definitely makes max deadlifts like this harder for a lot of the athletes because they can't let it hang in their fingertips a little bit. It's actually the reason the Arnold stated for not using them. I think it's different, but that's neither here nor there. Second event, this is where it gets very interesting, is a Husafelt stone carry, and what Brian said in his video was they're going to recreate the whole goat pen. If you watched, the documentary Rogue put out recently, mainly starring Stefan Solvi Peterson, who's a great guy. It's really cool, and they're kind of recreating that whole thing, and I think this is awesome. It's definitely different than what's been done in the past at the Arnold, which has always been such a static, heavy show. A front carry for max distance, I assume it's going to be for max distance, that's more of a, endurance, athletic-based strongman event. The thing's right, 400-ish pounds, so it's still definitely heavy, but that really is a big change. I guess they've already put a little bit more athletic events, doing like the sandbag toss for height. Personally glad that event is gone. Rogue's already sold enough sandbags, I guess. I don't think that they're going to start selling goat pens and real Husafelt stone replicas. So the problem with the sandbag toss, I feel like it was the black bag with the black background. You couldn't really see anything. But Husafelt stone, I think Hafthor already holds the world record on the actual Husafelt stone. So definitely the favorite there. I'm not really going to go too much into predictions on this video. I'm going to save that for closer up to the Arnold, but just going to kind of cover my thoughts on the event. But I think it's cool, and that they're going to set like this big stage for it is really cool, and that is what I feel separates pro strongman from just every other strongman show. it's not just the weights and who competes. It's that these bigger than life events, setting up a whole thing, just a whole stage, and it just looks like superhero, stuff with superheroes. It's not something that you or I could create. We don't have the budget to do it in a parking lot of our gym. And that Rogue is bringing that kind of stuff, and the Arnold is really that stuff like that, setting it apart. Where honestly, World's Strongest Man in the last couple of years hasn't had that many visually appealing, eye-popping new events. They've just been heavy, which is cool for us. But for the general public, when I first watched Strongman, think about what caught your eye when you first watched Strongman. It was seeing the biggest people you've ever seen in your life lifting things you've never even thought about lifting in places you didn't even know existed. I mean, we all know where Columbus is, but we got 2 of those things. So I think events like that are really cool. Third event, the Wheel of Pain. So this is going to be a whole big, grand event too. It's going to be interesting how it's set up from the details Brian Shaw released. They're going to be pushing it like Conan was in the movie, not carrying it like we all do a Conan's wheel. So it doesn't really make sense why this is a Conan's wheel and he was pushing it. So I guess they're saying, hey, we're going to do a real Conan's wheel. It'll be interesting how that is scored, if it's going to be for max distance, if the weight's increasing. In my mind, how I think it would be cool is if Rogue constructed a setup, so it's like a tractor pull, where it progressively gets heavier and heavier as it goes. If the sled, all the weights kind of shift. If there's, I don't know, not an engineer, but if they know how to do that, I think it'd be cool. It seems like that's something. Those kind of events are just going to favor Thor. I'm going to get into that later. Fourth event, Austrian Oak. Same deal. Coolest log in existence. Maybe other than the standard submit Mad Max log. But no, it's cooler because it's wood and it's just handcrafted. And Steve Slater just made the Austrian Oak is just beautiful. It's usually right around 430 pounds. Depends on the weather and how it's dried out. We've seen some years where lots of people got reps on it. We've seen some years where pretty much just the Journus has gotten reps on it. Of course, there's also the feather log, which is 370-ish. And any reps with the heavier log beat the lighter log. Always good to see the Austrian Oak back. I think it's one of the coolest implements in Strongman, and for it to not be used and just sit there somewhere but not much to say there. Fifth, stone to shoulder, we saw Keels Zhikowski just absolutely obliterate that event last year. Probably the coolest moment in Strongman of 2018. Hard to top it because everyone else just made them look silly, and Kiełzikowski made the stone look silly, in turn making everyone else look silly. I think it's a cool event to do on the main stage as the last event. The issue with it is that hopefully the athletes are a little better. It's hard to prepare for a specific stone, even though I think last year Brian and Thor went to Odhaugen's gym to practice with it, where the stone came from. I think Martins might actually, he didn't compete last year, and that stone's been at his gym for a while before it even was used by everyone, so he probably has a big advantage. So maybe he can top Kiełzikowski. That's going to be interesting. But hopefully the athletes are a little better prepared, because it just made the strongest guys in the world, pretty much most of them, just look kind of like they didn't know what they were doing, if you were, to some extent. Obviously they do, but it's just a lot of them couldn't get quite a grasp on it. So when you have that event in the middle of the bodybuilding show, when you have people that you pay separately to go to that one event. If you go to the Arnold, generally you can see all of the events except for the last event, which you need special tickets to see the finals of the bodybuilding for. So you got all these people that are just casually seeing Strongman, and you're going to see people that kind of struggling with the event. For me, I'd rather an event where it showcases Strongman a little better. But you could say lifting a giant rock to your shoulder, what's a better showcase of Strongman? It just depends on how you're looking at that. If it's it's just if 4 or 5 guys go and kind of really struggle with it before someone actually dominates it. I've been in the crowd while that happens, and the casual person, it doesn't do the sport the best service, but it's a good test of strength, I feel. It does not seem like Brian Shaw likes that stone, judging by his video. But hey, I think he'd like a normal stone, because that's what he holds the world record in. I think, to sum it up, I think the events are awesome. One of the issues, they seem very sided one way. Rogue is the main sponsor of the show. They sponsor 2 of the athletes in the show, Hafthor Bjornsson and Shaw. Some other pro strongman I've heard think that's a conflict of interest, and they don't do the show because of it. I definitely see the point there, but there's been bigger conflicts of interest in strongman in the past. But glad to see new events, trying new things, and something the Arnold doesn't get enough credit for is people always give it credit. It's the heaviest show. It has a big payout. It's this and that. It's probably one of the better shows to watch live, as long as you get there early and don't have to go through the mess of just spray tans and protein farts to people just going through. That's the worst. But something the Arnold does is it introduces new events that end up getting copied by every other strongman promoter and end up becoming a staple in strongman competitions. And they also bring back old tests and bring them back into the fold of modern strongman. They did it with the axle clean and press. They did it with the circus dumbbell, Hummer tire deadlift, sandbag toss. Whatever the Arnold does, every other promoter at every level copies for the next 2-3 years. So it's such an influential show in that way, and it's great to watch. Hafthor won it for the first time last year. Judging by the events and how he still dominates, hard to pick anyone else. But I'll do my predictions in a future video. I'm Kalle Beck. Follow at Starting Strongman. Follow my personal accounts at Let Kalle Lift across social media. Hit subscribe, hit like, tell me what you think of the events and any questions you have specifically on the Arnold or Strongman in the comments below. And have a strong week, strong people.